Have you ever thought about, if you fall asleep tonight and never wake up again, where will the real you go? Scientists say your heart stops beating. Religions say you enter heaven or hell. And some mysterious traditions say that you will see your entire life again at the end of that tunnel. In the field of Western end-of-life research, there is a phenomenon that has been repeatedly recorded called near-death experience, NDE. Eben Alexander, an American neurosurgeon, left his body when he was in a near-death state due to meningitis, traveled through a dark blue universe and heard a non-verbal light conveying information to him. He wrote in his book, "I feel that I am part of some eternal existence, an unspeakable love. Is this an illusion, or is it the true journey of the soul?" In ancient Egypt, the Book of the Dead had long described the soul after death, which would experience the judgment of the heart, walk through the Styx, and face Ambis and Osiris. The Tibetan Book of the Dead also says, after the soul leaves the body, it will float in the bardo for 49 days, receiving playback and guidance. Does this mean that death is not the end, but a transfer station for the soul's real journey? There is a shocking theory in modern quantum physics called non-locality of consciousness. Consciousness does not depend on the body, but exists in a kind of universal information field like a quantum field. Carl Pribram, a neurologist at Oxford University, proposed the holographic brain model. The brain is like a projector, and consciousness is the real negative. When you die, the negative returns to the original source of consciousness. The soul, maybe, it is that indestructible fragment of consciousness. If all this is true, will the pain, joy, love, and hate you and I have experienced in this life really disappear? Or will it be recorded by a high-dimensional existence, like the memory of the universe? Maybe after death, it is not nothingness, but a real return. Chapter 2. Where does consciousness go when there is no breath? The ultimate question that modern science cannot avoid. A doctor once said, "I have seen too many deaths, and when each body is quiet, I know that something has gone inside." But what is that thing? Where did it go? Dissipate? Fall asleep? Or enter a dimension we have not yet understood? In the mainstream scientific community, consciousness is still a mystery that cannot be fully defined. It is not an organ of the brain, nor is it the result of some kind of neural activity, but an irreducible experience itself, science challenge. Consciousness is not equal to the brain. Eben Alexander, a professor of neurology at Harvard Medical School, had a complete and clear near-death experience while in a coma for 7 days and with his brain stem fully shut down. I had no brain activity at the time, but I experienced a world more real than the earth, golden light, vast fields, dimensions composed of music, and a voice told me, "You are loved and you will never disappear." This is not an isolated case. More than 15 million people around the world have reported near-death experiences, NDEs, the most striking commonalities of which include: the consciousness leaves the body and sees the medical rescue process from above, entering a tunnel-like space with a strong but warm light at the end. Looking back on the entire life picture, and even feeling that the soul is being examined. Communicating with deceased relatives, angels, and beings of light. An unprecedented sense of belonging and even unwilling to return to the world, quantum consciousness theory. Are we information bodies, not physical bodies? Nobel Prize winner Roger Penrose and physicist Stuart Hameroff proposed, consciousness exists in subatomic microtubules, and once a person dies, this information is released into the cosmic field. In other words, your consciousness does not disappear, but after leaving the body, it returns to a certain quantum information Scie. This is what many spiritual traditions say. The soul returns to the source. Spiritual tips for this chapter. Death is not the end, but a frequency conversion. The self you feel is more eternal than you think. The body is just a temporary container, and consciousness is the original traveler. Chapter 3. Crossing. The Gate of Death. Why are the soul maps of the three major civilizations so surprisingly consistent? Human civilization has never really ignored death. On the contrary, almost all ancient wisdom uses the most pious language and the most sacred rituals to describe the journey of the soul after death. And when we put these traditional teachings side by side, we will find a shocking fact. Whether it is ancient Egypt, Tibetan Buddhism, or Greek philosophy, the soul path they describe is surprisingly similar. Ancient Egypt, Book of the Dead. Your heart will be judged. In Tutankhamun's coffin, there is a sentence engraved: the soul is waiting for your return at the western gate. The Egyptians believed that death was only a temporary departure from the body, and the real I, Ka, soul, would embark on a journey through the underworld. The soul must go through the Duat underworld, which is full of mysterious levels and challenges. Then, in the last judgment hall, the god Anubis will place the heart of the deceased and the feather of truth on both ends of the scale. If the heart is pure and light as a feather, the soul can enter. Read plain, the eternal paradise of the soul. Farce. If the heart is heavy, the soul will be swallowed by the monster Amit and disappear forever. This is a system of moral test plus soul return. The soul does not automatically ascend to heaven, but must pass the scrutiny of cosmic wisdom. Tibetan Buddhism. 6 realms of the Bardo. Death is not the end, but a purgatory of consciousness. The Tibetan Buddhist Bardo teachings describes in detail the state of the soul. 9 days after death. The soul after death enters the Bardo and receives the manifestation of 6 realms: light, sound, illusion, desire, fear, and guidance. In the first few days, you will see strong light and Buddha nature appear, but if your mind is unstable, you will escape in fear. In the middle stage, illusions, deceased relatives, and shadows of desire will appear, trying to lure you to reincarnate. In the later stage, the soul decides to reincarnate as a human, animal, ghost, god, hell, or become a Buddha according to the frequency and cause and effect before death. Tibetan Buddhism does not regard death as a period, but a bifurcation point for consciousness liberation or sinking. Whether the soul is awakened determines whether you are truly free. Ancient Greece. Plato's soul reincarnation, the river of forgetfulness and the valley of judgment. Plato proposed in Phaedo, the soul is immortal. After leaving the body, it will be guided to accept spiritual judgment. Kind souls enter Elysium and eventually escape reincarnation. Evil souls fall into the Styx, undergo purification and judgment. Ordinary souls drink water from the Tanta River of Lethe, forget their past lives, and reincarnate. 3 key words appear again here: immortality of the soul, judgment of death, consciousness reincarnation. Spiritual tips: 3 civilizations. The same truth, they speak different languages, but convey the same core logic. After the soul leaves the body, it will be examined by the wisdom of the universe, and then go to different destinations: heaven, reincarnation, liberation, or annihilation. You must start to cultivate yourself while you are alive, because every choice you make at the moment is writing your future soul trajectory. Chapter 4. Why are near-death experiences highly consistent? Evidence of the soul that science cannot explain. When the heart stops beating and breathing ends, does everything end there? The answer may be far more complicated than we think. Millions of near-death experience cases around the world, almost all convey a surprising common picture. a tunnel leading to light, looking down at one's own body, replaying life fragments, and even meeting deceased relatives. Is all this an illusion of the brain before death, or is it a real experience after the soul briefly leaves the body? Case 1. Near-death video of New York hospital. The perspective comes from the ceiling. In 2012, such a scene happened in the ICU ward of a hospital in the United States. An elderly woman with cardiac arrest was miraculously revived after being rescued for 10 minutes. Her first words shocked everyone. "You doctors rescued me in the upper left corner of my head. I saw you drop the scissors. There is a red number in the corner over there, 7398. The nurse took her to identify the scene. Everything was accurate. The perspective she described could not have been seen by the person on the bed. After investigation, it was found that there was indeed a red label with 7398 on the upper left corner of the room, which was the emergency equipment number. It could only be seen clearly when standing in a corner 2 meters high. This incident was included in the near-death research archive of the Lancet Medical Journal and could not be explained by hallucination. Scientific explanation. The brain is calm, but the consciousness is active. In 2001, Dutch neurologist Pim van Lommel conducted an NDE study on 344 patients with cardiac arrest. The results showed 18% had a clear near-death experience. Most people described a complex and logical journey of consciousness when the electrocardiogram was completely flat and there was no brain electrical activity. It is not a hallucination, because many people accurately described what happened around their bodies after they died. If the brain is shut down, who is thinking? Who is seeing? This leads to a question that science cannot answer. Does consciousness not rely on the brain at all? Case 2. Indian boy reincarnation case. 3-year-old remembers past life murder in Uttar Pradesh, India. A 3-year-old child, Shanti Devi, repeatedly dreamed of strange villages, shops, and the process of his own murder. His parents did not believe it at first, but he described it too specifically. Who killed him, which street, the color of the roof, the location of the burial. The researchers then took him to a strange village. He accurately pointed out his home in the previous life. Remembered the name of his wife in the previous life and the furnishings in the house. The weirdest thing is, he accurately pointed out the burial site, and the police really dug up a corpse. The court finally reopened the old case and successfully arrested the murderer. This child, who is illiterate, has never been to that place. The United Nations Cultural Department has set up a research project for this, calling it undeniable evidence of the transcendence of human consciousness. Spiritual tips. What science cannot detect does not mean it does not exist. Modern science can only study matter, but the soul belongs to energy frequency or consciousness dimension. Just like radio waves are invisible but can transmit sound. The existence of the soul may not be under a microscope, but is reflected in the real experience of the border of death. Some truths can only be understood with the soul. Are you willing to believe it? Have you ever felt the state of consciousness leaving the body in a dream or at the moment of near death? Chapter 5. They returned from the border of death just to tell you one thing. There is a mystery that is more shocking than the existence of the soul. That is, people who have experienced near-death experiences have completely changed their personalities after waking up. They are no longer afraid of death and no longer anxious about money or fame. They seem to have seen some truth and are willing to change their entire lives for this. They say that the moment of death is not the end, but a magnificent return. I saw a huge ocean of consciousness and I was part of it. Among the thousands of cases recorded by the Near-Death Experience Research Foundation, NDERF, in the United States, the most common words are light, home, unconditional love, fusion of consciousness. A dying person was revived 5 minutes after, drowning and choked up in an interview. I entered a golden ocean where there was no language, but every light point was talking to me. They told me that I had no sin, no failure, and everything was an experience. I was perfectly accepted. At that moment, he said, I am no longer I, but part of the universe. Common message. All returnees said the same sentence. Life is not an exam, but an experience. No one judges you. No God is recording your right or wrong. The only thing that matters is, have you loved and experienced your true self? This amazing consistency is not religious indoctrination, because many returnees have no religious background at all. Real case. The near-death revelation of a NASA engineer who had participated in the Apollo moon landing project was near death during a heart operation. He said that he passed through a blue and white tunnel and entered a field without time. There he saw a picture. He once ignored his father's call. He once accidentally hit his friend's dream. He once lost his lover because of his pursuit of perfection. No one blamed me there, but I cried myself. It's not others who judge me, but my soul sees it myself. After waking up, he quit his job and set up a children's education foundation just to bring love back. Your life script may be written by yourself. Many people who are dying mentioned a similar phenomenon. I see life as an open book. Every choice, every encounter has already been laid out in front of me. I just come to experience it. They said, life is not a punishment arranged, but an experience chosen by oneself at the soul level. It is like a wave of consciousness in the sea of the universe, turning into your body, emotions, and encounters in this life. You come to this world, not to become someone, but to remember who you are. Spiritual tips. Death is just a thin curtain leading to the true self. Death is not terrible. What is terrible is that, when you are alive, you have never really lived. Are you worried about the future and regretting the past every day? Have you forgotten that you are a traveler of the soul, temporarily borrowing this body to experience the universe? The common message of those who have returned from near-death experiences is not a myth, but a spiritual call. You don't have to wait until you die to learn how to live. You can calm down, close your eyes, and ask your inner voice right now, if tomorrow is the end, what will I regret? What does my soul really desire? Chapter 6. Consciousness is immortal. The universe is recalling your origin. Imagine. When your body disappears, will you still know who you are? Science has tried to explain consciousness, but has always encountered an unavoidable mystery. Does those consciousness belong to the brain, or is it higher than the brain? This question is the ultimate clue to the immortality of the soul. The brain is not a creator, but just a receiver. Nobel Prize winner and quantum physicist Roger Penrose proposed, consciousness is not generated by the brain, but a quantum phenomenon in the universe. The brain is just an instrument for receiving and processing consciousness. It's like consciousness is a broadcast, the brain is a radio. When the radio is broken, the broadcast is still there, but you can't hear it. This is exactly in line with what many near-death experiencers say. When the body stops, my consciousness is still clear, even clearer than when I was alive. Buddha, Einstein, and cosmic consciousness. Buddha said, all things are only consciousness. Einstein said, reality is just an illusion, although it is deeply rooted. Taoism says, the form is scattered, but the spirit is immortal. These seemingly different theories actually point to the same thing. The universe is a sea of consciousness, and death is just the migration of consciousness at different levels. And what we call death is nothing more than the soul taking off the old life clothes. Modern physics is also secretly telling you you won't really die. Physics experiments at Princeton University in the United States have found that when a person dies, the quantum disturbances in the space around him are extremely violent, as if some information is migrating or changing form. This is surprisingly consistent with the ancient records of soul out of the body. MIT professor Danilo Lin even proposed, dark energy in the universe may be a storage medium for consciousness, and we are just its short-term projection. In other words, the I in front of you is just a temporary journey projected by the soul in the universe. You have never really been born and will never really end. You are a beam of cosmic consciousness. Please imagine such a picture. A beam of light from the center of the Milky Way, passing through the endless sea of stars, finally shines on a flesh body and becomes you. What you worry about, care about, and chase every day is actually just a short reflection of this light. And at the last moment of your life, this beam of light will return to its source, without a trace of fear, only with all your feelings, learning, and love, back to the place called home by many people. Spiritual sublimation. Who you are is never a name or identity. You are not your parents' child, not the position on your business card. You are not other people's evaluation, nor the wrong things you have done. You are a traveler, a ray of light of consciousness, a drop of water returning to the ocean. Therefore, death is not a punishment, not an end, or even an event. Death is when you take off your disguise and return to your true self. You come to this world not to live perfectly, but to experience, embrace, feel, and finally, remember who you are. Conclusion of Chapter 6. Emotional precipitation for the ending. When you truly understand that the soul will not die, your life will change completely. You are no longer angry about trivial matters. You are no longer afraid of loss. You no longer live for others. You will love the world again with a smile, just like a person who has returned from the brink of death. Chapter 7. The moment of awakening has begun. In this life, we are all asking, is there really anything after death? But perhaps the deeper question is, who am I? Where do I come from and where will I go? When you are finally willing to stop and look inward, you will find that death is not an end point. It is a door. Death is the door to the Tao. Do you dare to cross it? Every story about death is actually a clue about the return of consciousness. The Tibetan Book of the Dead says, 49 days after death, the soul will enter the 6 realms according to the frequency. The judgment of the heart in ancient Egypt is a test before the soul reincarnates again. Modern scientific near-death research is quietly confirming that you will see your past self reappearing scene by scene. You will eventually look back on your life, but it is not God who is judging you. It is you who is asking yourself, have I really lived in this life? If the soul really exists, what are you doing now? If you know that death is not the end, then why are you still afraid of failure? Why do you still live to please others? Why don't you live out your true self? Maybe it's not a coincidence that you saw this video today. It is your higher self that is awakening you. Wake up, you have been asleep for too long. The secret of death actually hides the meaning of life. Death is not dark, but unreturning. Every loss is actually the renewal of the soul. Every pain is actually the expansion of consciousness. We don't have to wait for the moment of death to understand life is not just for living, but for awakening. Call to action, CTA. 3 things you can do. Open your senses, pay attention to those coincidences, déjà vu, and guidance in dreams. They are not illusions, but your soul talking to you. Stop just believing and start experiencing it yourself. Meditate, record dreams, write down your inner feelings so that you can start to go through the appearance and return to your true self. Share this video with the person you care about. because you don't know if she is experiencing a night of the soul. A message may be the key to her awakening.